where it's, well, in the past, we didn't have enough black students on campus, so we need to right that by excluding other people and including more blacks. I think it mirrors the same policies that have led to the degradation of the black American family.
Because handouts don't work.
You know, imagine if you're a black student who didn't score so well, right, had a lower SAT score, didn't score so well, and you know that you're in the university as a diversity applicant. That self-doubt, and that's what I'm saying, I don't want you to have it. To me, it seems so sad to have for the rest of your life to go, man, did I really deserve this spot? Or was it because of the color of my skin? And I think that's why we see detrimental effects. You know, black Americans, because of it. Hold on, don't move. There's a spider on your shoulder. I don't know if you're afraid of spiders. I hate spiders.
Thank goodness.
I hate spiders.
Yeah.
It was right there. Okay, sorry, my heart's going like this. Sorry, I do not like spiders. We see a much higher dropout rate with black Americans at university, or them making up a disproportionately high percentage of the lower performing students in the class because they've been accepted with lower academic performance, and then they tend to do poorly because they're often mismatched against people who were accepted on their merits. And that to me is very sad.
And then my question is, like, in college we learned that it's only because with the college degree that you have a higher chance of getting a high income. Like, you know, people with a high school degree won't earn as much as a person with an associate degree and then a bachelor degree and master's.
Right.
Because of affirmative action, without affirmative action, would there be any other way for minorities?
Your way.
Well,
you worked hard.
Yes.
You worked hard. It has nothing to do with the color of your skin. And by the way, that's also not true. Let me tell you something. You're studying political science?
Yes. Well, political communication, but it's basically.
Okay. You're going to get mad at me to tell you this, but you realize that if you would have gone to a trade school for nursing or working in an oil field or electrician, you would be making more money doing that than studying poli-sci? You would have made a lot more money.
Yes. That's probably why I'm going to marketing.
There you go. Even then, you would make far more money in a trade with your apprenticeship, and after only a couple of years than after a degree from UT. So again, that would sort of reflect the idea that going to an Ivy League school or a high-end school like University of Austin is not an indicator of economic success. People right now who go into trades do better than people who go into universities. And again, a much more important indicator is a nuclear family, a father and a mother in a household, far greater indicator than any college degree. And here's what's so concerning to me. You know, you've heard me talk about this before, and I've talked about this with other people where I know that I'm getting repetitive, but it's because we're discussing the same issue. Why do you think, let me ask you this, why do you think that black Americans in the 1960s, you know, this is post-Jim Crow, Voting Rights Act of 65, had really strong family households, like your family has talked about, you know, where it was less than 25% single household rate. Why do you think from 1965 to 2019, we then ended up with a nearly 80% single parent household rate? What do you think influenced that?
Before he goes too deep, I want to say that I just graduated from college with a degree in optical engineering, and I'm actually doing a master's degree right now in electrical engineering. And the reason I want to say that is because I think it's directly tied to his take on affirmative action. The problem with affirmative action is that affirmative action helps people like me. And let me explain. People like me grew up in a two-parent household. People like me had parents who were in the top 10 to 20% financially. The reason why that's a problem is because despite all the advantages I had in life, to be able to go to college for a degree in electrical engineering for free, is because there are people who do not look like me, who are different races than me, who have a harder life than me, who have worse circumstances financially, economically, who grew up in worse neighborhoods, who will have a harder time than me. Point blank period. And it's because affirmative action is kind of broken in America. What I mean by that is, why would I, someone who grew up with parents who are in the top 20% financially, who did have a nuclear household, why do I have a higher chance of getting into majority of colleges just because I'm black? Even though I went to better schools than a lot of other races of students, even though that I grew up with a nuclear household, even though I didn't have to work a job when I was in high school or middle school, why do I get more scholarships, get more opportunities than lower income white families? I think that is completely wrong. So what he's saying is very fair, and stay tuned because we're going to go deep into this video, and I hope you enjoy it.
Of course, there's the cultural factor, as conservatives know. It's like the black culture shifted from nuclearness to
But why?
consumerism. Would the conservative answer be less Jesus?
No, but that's a good try. I appreciate it. Maybe that's a part of it. No, a big reason, and it could be a part of it actually. Sorry, I just thought it was funny. Would the conservatives say less Jesus? You really have a fixed view of what conservatives are.
I've been to UT, so.
Okay. No, I don't believe so. No, if you look at actually in the 60s under Lyndon Johnson, the Model Cities program and the Modern Welfare program, these were programs, of course, aimed at righting the wrongs of discrimination in the past, specifically targeted or aimed toward black people. And it incentivized single-parent households. So in trying to right the wrongs of the past, like slavery, like Jim Crow laws, like voter suppression, they created new laws, which I think we would both agree were discriminatory in that they were specifically targeting black Americans, which subsequently created worse results. I mean, you look at the Model Cities program, you look at schools, inner city black areas where they have much higher than average per pupil spending, but the graduation rate is terrible. Then you look at them, at black people benefiting overwhelmingly from welfare programs, but overwhelmingly they are single parent households because there's an economic incentive with the current welfare system to be a single parent household. So in trying to right the previous wrongs of systemic discrimination, they made them worse. They created more economic disparity. And doesn't that kind of mirror the idea of affirmative action? Where it's, well, in the past, we didn't have enough black students on campus, so we need to right that by excluding other people and including more blacks. I think it mirrors the same policies that have led to the degradation of the black American family, and I think we see that in the results of affirmative action. Primarily, fewer black Americans enrolling in top-tier higher education than even 35 years ago.
Because handouts don't work. Handouts never work, because what you're saying is to the black community that you don't have to work as hard as other races. You will still get into this school. And for those that disagree with me, I'm not the type to fight you on your disagreement. If you disagree with me, please, and I'm begging you, please let me know, and I'll look into my thoughts a little more. But what you're saying is your GPA can be lower. Your SATs can be lower. You can go to a worse high school or middle school or whatever, and you will still get the same opportunity as other students. That is wrong. That is wrong, bro, and it's showing to be wrong. And the biggest reason why it's wrong is not even because they lower standards. To me, that's not even the biggest reason why it's wrong. The biggest reason why it's wrong is because it's purely off of race. It's not off of economic standing. It's really not even off of neighborhood. It's off of race. You can have a millionaire black kid have a higher chance of getting into a school, even though their GPA can be lower, their SATs can be lower, they can still have more money and resources, and they will still have a higher chance of getting to certain schools than a low-income white student or a low-income Asian student or whatever. That is wrong, bro. And it's not even, to me, it's not even arguable. It's just wrong. If the affirmative action said, we're going to focus on economics or at least neighborhoods when we make our decisions and not just race, that makes sense. But this right here, it's not right.
It hasn't worked.
So your solution is less government, right?
My solution is for them to be performative based. Affirmative action has been negligible in its results. The only results that we see, I would argue, have been primarily negative. I would certainly argue, maybe you could argue this, maybe you would disagree, but culturally, it seems as though it's had far more negative ramifications in creating divisiveness on campus where, sometimes people feel like, oh, that's an affirmative action student. Or like you said, you believe that without affirmative action, you wouldn't be on this campus. I think the effect has been negative. I think overall, if I'm being fair, the effect statistically has been negligible. And I would prefer to focus on academic standards and certainly not harm anyone because they're lacking a specific skin color. I think you worked really hard from what you told me. I haven't seen your test scores, but I believe you. I assume you've worked very hard and you deserve to be here, and you should feel confident and believe that you have a right to be here, just as I think that an Asian American who is here should believe and understand that they have the right to be here based on the merits of their performance and the contents of their character, not because of some diversity program.
a final question.
Yes.
Again, I'm reiterating this question because it means a lot.
No, I appreciate it.
If we base it on just performance, how can, like you say, Asian students outperform even white people? So wouldn't that just make it like a full bunch of Asians and white people at school?
And if it does, that's what I'm saying. America has thousands of schools. There are thousands of colleges in America. If we make it performance-based, let's say we make it performance-based, and Harvard becomes 80% Asian and white, I would say, who cares? If their performance is better, they deserve it. There are thousands of other colleges. Thousands. The university I went to was 90% black, I think. It was a very high percentage of black people at my school. But what I'm saying is, who cares if the top universities have majority of one race? Who cares? Why are we focused on race? If the Asian students or the Caucasian students perform higher, then they deserve to be there. Point blank, period. And the problem is, we refuse to acknowledge that. We're taking away spots. Well, I'm not going to say taking away spots. Well, yeah, that would probably be the best way to put it. We're not letting in too many of one race of student because of what? That is literal racism. Because if the roles were reversed, if someone said, well, what if there's too many black students here? That's obviously racism, right? But if someone says, oh, it's too many white students here, or it's too many Asian students here, that's not racist? That is also racist. Racist is discrimination based off of race. Point blank, period.
No, not necessarily. They would disproportionately make up more of the student body on campus.
Like that's what I read about in New York. I mean, in the New York schools, de Blasio had that huge pushback against minority people because the top schools were just filled with Asian.
A lot of Asians.
No offense.
No.
But
not white people, Asians.
Asians
And a big reason for that is because the Asian community at large has placed a lot of importance on academics. And when I say performative, by the way, I don't just mean SAT scores, right? Because I don't know if you're familiar with the Harvard lawsuit, but it was pretty racist against Asians because they said, well, we measure a bunch of different standards.
The holistic look.
Yes, right? But a lot of those are intangible. A lot of them are variables that can't be quantified. And so they would disproportionately weigh Asians saying like, seems very math focused, not particularly socially inclined. When I say performative standards, I don't just mean the test scores, but extracurriculars, like you talked about, or what other programs you enrolled in, what other activities, what kind of contributions to your community. Those are all performative. When I say performative, I mean including all of those, just not for the same reason that it's considered racism. Maybe if I explain it this way, you might understand. YouTube has this policy, and so do a lot of universities. And when people talk about hate speech, which I don't agree with, but I don't agree that hate speech is a thing, but they base it on the idea of if you insult or denigrate someone based on what they call intrinsic characteristics, meaning things that they have no control over, they can't change, like race, sex, gender, they consider that hate speech in a lot of these countries. However, that is the exact same standard that affirmative action uses in determining student applicants.
But do we even have to say that's true? It would be different if universities said, we're going to look at these characteristics for all students, but universities have been proven to have different standards for different races. That is racist. Like, I don't even know why I have to say this. If you have a different set of standards, not based off your economic standing, not based off of your neighborhood, but based off of your race, I don't even know a better example of racism. That's the purest form it can get to. But if you have any suggestions for me or any comments, or if you want a part 2 of this video, let me know in the comments. It's LFR Jojo, and I'll see you guys later.